Yeah. So, yeah, it was, I remember, like, the like, listening to like, getting to know about shows and stuff back then was it was either, we try to dial into KCMU, the radio station, and then we get the Rocket, which was such an amazing, like, they'd have the calendar, and you knew, like, what bands were coming to town. And um and I remember, like, yeah, the Rocket being such a big part of that whole, like, scene and everything. And it was such a I remember the first time hearing about, like, the farts was, going to, at our local mall, the Everett Mall. There was a record store there. Oh no, this was Northgate Mall in Seattle. Record store called DJ's Sound City. I don't know if
Hmm.
you're, but
No, I went to that one.
they always would have a stack of the Rocket there in front. And I remember one day walking out and seeing the Rocket, and it had Culprit and the farts on the
Yes,
cover.
I was just gonna bring that up.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, what's this about?
Yeah,
And I had seen, like,
totally.
when I was, first going to some local band shows, I did see some of the, like, Overlord and Culprit and,
Mace.
yeah, Mace. Yes, I did see some of those bands, at, like, wherever the skate there was, like, the
Yeah.
rink shows and stuff. And those were sort of gateway, because I think when you were talking to your brother, we had a similar gateway to, like, punk, because my thing, and I think your thing was, like, Motorhead was a huge, like, thing, because I was, like, listening to Scorpions and Van Halen and, all that stuff. And hearing Motorhead just blew my mind, and that was, like, 1980. And
Yeah,
then,
exactly.
yeah, and then hearing Plasmatics, which were another band that really, you know blew my mind. And then they were on TV on, like, SCTV and Fridays and stuff. And that was, like, the gateway to, to the Ramones and the all the other stuff. And it was like a yeah, it was, but it was so hard to find those records. And to, you'd go, the U District was the spot for the
It
records.
really was, yeah. Yeah, you absolutely, and the Tower Records by the Seattle Center. We used to
Oh
find some pretty good records there,
yeah, weird.
consistent.
Hmm. Yeah, the
Tacoma Tower had metal, more like weird metal that would come in, like a lot of new wave of British heavy metal bands. Like my brother was talking about how, we would just find a cover, like more often, my brother would risk, he just risk it by, um, uh, finding a band like, what's a good example? Let's see. Well, there was a band called Vardis. God, there's a bunch of bands. Um, but anyway, just kind of based off the cover, like sometimes we'd strike out, and then he, I think it was my brother that figured this out too. He, we'd look at the record and we could see, like, if the grooves were lighter, that means there was going to be mellower songs or mellower parts. So we'd kind of be like, and then if we just wanted to risk it, then we'd risk it. And
oh
actually, if it was really bad, we'd return it. It's
yeah,
just bad.
yeah, yeah. Sometimes trade in, like, oh, I don't want this, I'll get this. And um yeah, there was so many, like, just seeing, like, a Venom record and being like, this looks, and
Oh God, yeah.
like, um yeah, it was such a weird, like, yeah, record shopping was such, or I'd read about a record, and I'd read the little capsule reviews and, like, Maxim Rock and Roll, and just see, okay, I guess I'll look for, keep my eye out for these bands. And you go to Seattle, look through the bins, and you'd find something and just be like, oh, this is that band, I read about. Or you'd have a friend make you a I remember a friend of mine made me a mixtape, and it had, but for some reason he didn't write who was on it. And I remember hearing, yeah, some bands that I had to like who was this? Like weird band like Social Unrest and Subhumans and stuff like that. And yeah, but a lot of it really was just blindly like buying the record because you really couldn't hear it before.
I think that we pretty quickly found out that we could trust punk rock more just to be, it was rare that we'd buy a punk rock record and not like it. Is
Yeah.
because I mean, metal was could be awful.
Mhm.
But most of the time, like everything, in a sense, it was so original and new, really. Each band kind of sounded a little bit, maybe a little bit different, kind of their own sound, even though it might be hardcore or fast or slow. It was a whole, um, uh, like a whole new genre we were finding out. You know, I mean, we just eat it up like anything.
Mhm.
I mean, anything that looked punk rock that we could, find, and we just buy it like crazy, and then search out some bands too, like you were saying, like based off Maximum Rock and Roll, or hearing something about some band.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. And it was all sort of under that umbrella where it was like it could be, you know, Gang of Four or, you know, Susie and the Banshees or Discharge, or it was all kind of like taking it all in. It wasn't like yeah, like identified totally with, any sort of, goth or hardcore or whatever. It was just like, it was all like great, it was all like really mind opening and, you know, uh,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Just recently, for the first time, I heard, and it's like one of the most amazing records, Wire, Chairs Missing.
oh
And
yeah, yeah,
I don't know how. It's just one of those things, like you can't hear everything. I'd never heard that album. And
yeah.
I'm like, God,
Hmm.
this is like the whole variation of the songs on that album just blowing my mind. There's like stuff that's weirder and mellower and like diminished, like, um it how do you call it? It's almost like Bauhaus-ish, but it's before. That's like before, or almost kind of like before Bauhaus.
Yeah,
I don't.
they
So
were,
good.
yeah, they were amazing because they were sort of like post punk before post punk. They were kind of because they, were one of those original '77
Yeah.
bands, but they, you know, yeah, it was Pink Flag, 154, Chairs Missing, and they all are great records. And I did find it interesting, and I think your brother mentioned how the song 12XU that Minor Threat covered, and it just showed their influence. They were so unique, and they even like influenced the hardcore guys and stuff. And yeah, they
Well,
were just really really cool band.
Um, yeah, so I was thinking about some Crescent Ballroom shows that, okay, so I try to explain sometimes how insane Butthole Surfer shows were,
Oh
like
yeah.
when they had the, you
Mhm.
know, two two movie screens playing insane movies, and they had the painted dancer. Did you see him play
Yeah,
in that era?
yeah, times back in that era. And but the Crescent Ballroom show, again, cause not only the lineup was, because I used to have the flyer where it was like Soundgarden, Saint Vitus, I can't remember who else, maybe Malfunction or Green River. But that show was like they were at the like peak of, uh, you know like insanity, like yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, they,
I actually took LSD that night, and I missed all the openers,
yeah.
somehow, but I got in to see the Butthole Surfers. So
Yeah,
I never got to see Soundgarden early on that I remember.
yeah, yeah. Because they would play shows where early on, where I know it was at certain shows where I'm like, wow, Soundgarden open, but I don't, like sometimes I would be out in the parking lot drinking 40 ounces and miss some of the opening bands. And I think the Soundgarden opened for the Vandals at Gorilla Gardens, and I remember, years later being like, wow, I was at that show, but I didn't. I missed Soundgarden because I was out drinking. But it did play so many, so many show. They opened for so many shows back then, and but yeah, that Butthole Surfer show was just yeah, it was
Yeah,
insane. It,
it was, absolutely memorable, like, it's just one of those shows that's
yeah,
amazing that you were there,
yeah.
for sure. So crazy. Yeah, there was a way to sneak into the Crescent, um, but it was really sketchy.
Oh yeah.
I only did it once. Most of the time I could find another way in, but there was the attached building next door, so
Okay.
you could climb up, and it was abandoned, like broken windows, like you didn't know what was up there, and it was abandoned, and you could climb up to the upstairs, and then you like somehow would walk through. I remember having to follow somebody that had done it before, follow somebody through some hallways and some doors, and then you end up on the balcony of the Crescent. And then you walk down the balcony and down the stairs and into the club.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is great.
And um I remember hearing that some friends were up there and they were like there was like all this like gang writing, like Crips, um if you aren't a Crip you're going to be dead, or like
Wow.
something like that, right?
Yeah.
It was like an abandoned, like, you know Crip hangout
Hey,
right next door.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Tacoma
uh,
was dangerous. Back in the day, I don't know how it is now, but it was like a rough.
Shit,
You know.
that reminds me. Did you Okay, so Subvert with the Accused, we played with the Accused and Last Gasp,
Okay.
um at the party hall.
Oh yeah, the party
It
hall.
was on Madison.
Hmm.
And I remember that day, like, trying to find parking with our band, and there was gangsters throwing signs. I mean, we were like I mean, I it was sketchy. I lived
Yep.
in that area for years, like, later on, and it was, of course, nothing like that, but, um, yeah, that area was sketchy.
Yeah, I remember I worked at a this pizza place called Picoria's that was on. I think it was on Madison. It was
Yeah.
way on the hill, Capitol Hill, and yeah, and I remember the party hall because yeah, like a lot of friends, like the Derelicts would play there, and um, yeah, that I don't know how long that place lasted, but yeah, yeah, Tacoma was, I mean, Seattle, downtown Seattle was a whole different thing back then. It was pretty dark, and they're like whenever I go back up to Seattle and go downtown, and it's just like bustling people everywhere, and back in the '80s, man, it was like you know I think there's a movie called Streetwise about the street kids and from the early
Okay. Yeah.
and a lot of footage of downtown Seattle, and it's like really captures like what it was like back then, because it really was like a pretty barren, like you really didn't go downtown at night, and but of course that's where all the clubs were, so all us kids were down in Chinatown or Belltown or wherever, the Pioneer Square, which was like Graven Image and Metropolis and Ground Zero, I think. Or there's another club called the what's called the Gray Door, that the
Yeah.
Papa Boys. I think that was their kind of clubhouse or something.
I don't
And
remember if that's where Youth Brigade played. I know Youth Brigade might have played the Grey Door. That
Really?
rings a bell.
Yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of, yeah, really there in Lincoln Arts Center, which was a cool spot. It was upstairs, down by the water. I remember seeing, oh God, DOA played there. There was a riot. Um, um, ah, man, my memory is. But yeah, I would go to Lincoln Arts Center to see bands um, and yeah, but Crescent Ballroom. Getting back to that, there was so many like I remember seeing Die Kreutzen there, and it was like
Oh, yeah.
they were so fucking good. It was
Yeah.
so good. Yeah,
That's the October File
yeah,
tour. Yeah,
yeah. They were awesome, and
they were.
yeah, and I think Doctor No, Doctor No play there.
Yeah.
DRI,
Clown Alley.
Clown
Clown
Alley.
Alley played.
Yeah, with Melvins, I think before
Yeah,
um
I think so.
or Lori was.
Um,
'Cause who was? Oh yeah, Matt was. Lucan was still in the Melvins at that point. Yeah, yeah. They hadn't left town yet.
I remember one of those shows, um, Dale, I was like, I don't know, kind of I was in there early for some reason. And Dale came up to me and said, "Dude, I don't you don't believe what I just heard. The drummer of Def Leppard freaking lost his arm in a car wreck." I remember Dale told me that. They were like talking about that. Yeah, I was like, whoa. Yeah, like this off the wall conversation.
Yeah, that's so great. Yeah, yeah. The Melvins, man. Yeah, I saw them so many times. They were just always just so. Um. Uh, yeah. So I want to bring the up to the because I remember you've told this story a million times, but the timeline is interesting. Like when you first saw Nirvana was at Community World, and that January of '88 or
Well, as you mean as
well,
Nirvana or oh,
I-
you're cutting out. You're cutting out.
okay, can you hear me?
It's weird because you'll just cut out like a couple words and
Oh, really?
it's like
Okay,
right there.
yeah. So yeah, the first time you saw, I guess, them at, before they, because I saw, the first time I saw Nirvana was the first show they called themselves
Yeah,
Nirvana.
that's with Dave on drums.
That was with Dave on drums. That was March of '88, and it was with Lush, which was Slim Moon's band, and I can't remember who else, but and I remember Slim telling me and my friend Dave, um, we went to the show to see Lush, to see, because we had seen them play. Well, we seen uh Nesqually Delta, Podunk Nightmare, and I remember, I think that's where I met Slim Moon and Dylan Carlson, and so then they morphed into Lush, and Slim told us stay for the the band after us, Nirvana, like stay for them. They're amazing. They're like they're kind of like Melvins, but more like psychedelic. So it's like, okay, we'll stick around. And I do remember at the Community World was, pretty big theater. There's not a lot of people there, but I remember like after Lush played and then seeing Nirvana, and just they were, you know, I remember there's even a recording of the show that's on YouTube, and it's as good as my memory recalled.
That's the one with Dale playing though.
I think that was
So,
no, that was a
but the recording on YouTube is there's not the recording of with Dave playing. It doesn't exist.
really. Oh,
No,
okay. I thought
no,
I thought
I've never seen it yet.
okay, then I must have, yeah, I must have heard something that was around the same period or something, because Yeah, it was
It
uh,
yeah, weird. Yeah, it's those shows are confusing. Is Dave played spot on to
yeah.
what Dale played. I mean, really close. And
Yeah.
I remember like just being like completely blown away that you know somebody could step in and
Oh yeah.
and nail the drum parts really close. Yeah, you know that Mike McDowell from Noxious Fumes sang in Lush.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, he was the singer in Lush.
Oh, okay. So then Slim was guitar, or what was Slim doing?
I don't know who else was. I just remember that. Yeah, Mike was or Mike was bass. Sorry, Mike was in the band.
And,
Mike
okay,
McDowell. Like we constantly are testing our memories.
yeah, it's because yeah, I was thinking the timeline of Nirvana drummers, and it occurred to me I'd never seen, like, Aaron Burkhardt was one, early on, that I never did see, but I did see. So um Dave Foster. So the
Yeah.
first time I saw them was Dave Foster, then Chad Channing. I did see the shows I saw with Dale were when Dale rejoined after Chad left, and I think they did some shows with Sonic Youth.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't get to see those shows.
And
Might have
then
been.
I saw the one show with Dan Peters, which was the motorsports show, and then Dave Grohl. So I was like, I kind of was like, I saw Nirvana with five different drummers through that period. And but when you first saw, they weren't Nirvana yet, but Dale was playing drums, right?
Well, the very first show was with Burkhart, so that would have been the Skid Row
Okay,
show, and
right,
then the next show was with Dale because they had literally recorded. And that was they were called Ted Ed Fred,
right.
and uh, and they had just recorded that literally that day. They recorded that demo and then went and played the show. And I remember Jack and Dino was at that show.
Oh,
Or he was either at that show or the one with Dave. I think he was at I think he did go to the show that night. Almost
yeah,
positive on that one.
cool.
Um, yeah, yeah. I was thinking about did you go to the More Theater show? This is one of the stories that's when it was the Sub Pop Fest
Oh
where it
yeah,
was Mudhoney Tad and
yeah.
Nirvana. Did you go to
That
that one?
with yeah, Mudhoney, Tad, Nirvana at the Moore, and it was, I think it was the night that Bleach came out. I
Oh, interesting.
Because I remember going to the show, and Sub Pop was down the street. I remember someone walking in with boxes and putting them on a fold out table, and them taking out Bleach. And I remember, like, like, after the show, kind of walking out being like, oh, like, and buying Bleach for like $6 or whatever. And it was the white vinyl version.
I was just gonna say that because my friend Ryan bought a copy of the white vinyl, like white vinyl. Do you still have it?
No, no.
Shit.
I had,
That is
I,
fucking valuable
I
too.
was single.
Crazy.
Yeah, had the Love Buzz single, had Bleach, and, over the
Yep.
years, and
I have yeah. It might be when you move back or some
oh,
I don't know, maybe not.
right,
Uh,
but yeah, I remember buying Love Buzz single for like 2.99 or whatever at Fallout Records, where, you know they'd have the newest, right away. They'd always stock the newest stuff. Um, but uh, but I but the Nirvana Community World, I remember seeing them, and that it was just like, I have to see this band every time, you know. And when you asked me to, like, talk about shows and stuff, and I was like, I wonder. So I did a little research, went on the Live Nirvana website, and yeah, came up with about 23 times I saw Nirvana.
Yeah, yeah, that's about exactly what I came up with. I went through it again right before, like, just a couple hours ago,
Yeah.
and I was thinking it was 23, but I included the band practice that I went to.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. Included there were two shows that were secret surprise shows. One of them was in Bellingham, Honey, and then the maybe it was like the following night they played the Crocodile.
Okay, yeah, I don't
Yeah,
think I was living I didn't think I was still in Albuquerque.
yeah, because that by that time Nirvana had blown up, and so they had to do these little like little shows like that. And then I remember kind of comparing. Like I did see like the biggest Nirvana show I ever saw. I think was the Seattle Coliseum. And just remember thinking about how short a time, like seeing them at Community World with just a handful of people, to then seeing them in an arena a few years later, and it was just like kind of blowing my mind of how like just witness the arc of this band, just like from you know just like
Yeah.
it's still really crazy how that whole
Well, also, you also knew Kurt a little bit,
yeah.
like myself, and kind of experiencing that. I was in Albuquerque really when they took off, and just walking up to the corner store. I remember very specifically, I'd go up to the corner store, and I remember like those few days where all of a sudden all the magazines on the rack, it seemed like there was these pictures of like, Kurt, like read, the either Kurt or the whole band,
Mhm.
and it would be like, it just like I try to take it in,
Mhm.
like, holy crap, what's going on,
Yeah.
it's hard to articulate my feelings,
Mhm.
like how I felt.
Yeah.
Um, it didn't seem, it was that surreal feeling where, you really can say that. It's like, what the hell?
Yeah, it's really that like Spin magazine with Kurt with the red hair, and I remember vividly being on Capitol Hill and walking by a newsstand and seeing the Rolling Stone and just like staring at it and being like, what is happening?
Yeah.
And being in a band, like I was the at the time, when everything was kind of like Seattle was really getting attention. I remember us playing in the band I was in, Kill Sybil, and and we were on just like the little indie punk label Empty Records, and they would get letters from major labels just asking about what's up with this this band or that band. And like bands were getting I think Gas Suffer got picked up by like Epitaph. Bands were like getting signed, and anytime we'd play out of town, it would be like, Seattle band, or they'd say Sub Pop band Kill Sybil. And it's like, we're not on Sub Pop, but they would just stick stuff on there because anything Seattle Sub Pop related was the thing. It was such a weird, you know, everything was the Northwest. Everything was like, Twin Peaks was happening, like, it,
Northern exposure,
yeah,
even it wasn't.
yeah, all those. It was such a thing where we were like the hippest place.
Single. Stuff like that.
Um, yeah, it was like we're the hippest place on earth for a minute. For a minute there, it was just like, what is happening? Like, because like when I was a kid, remember when we were kids being into punk rock and everything, like LA was a spot or New York was a spot, or it was like Minneapolis. Like everyone else had these cool scenes going on. It seems like Seattle, we were such a little insulated scene, and we had our own bands. We had great bands, the U Men, and accused, 10-minute warning, really cool stuff. But it seemed like that was just our, uh, it's just crazy to think how that, kind of spread, and how a band like the Melvins or something is still around, Mudhoney's still around, and their influence is so, you know, like so big.
So I was in Albuquerque from the very end of '91 until the mid '93, and as the whole explosion was, Northwest whatever, um, music explosion was happening, I was experiencing it from there. So bands were coming down on tour, and I had a band down there, but you're like, these bands come through, and I knew everybody in like seemed like I knew people in all these different bands, like Seaweed, Beat Happening,
Oh
My Name, The Gits, like all of these bands were coming through, and and I worked at a place called Fred's Bread and Bagel, where any touring band could come in and eat completely for free.
yeah.
Like and it was all musicians that worked there, pretty much all musicians or artists. And it was
Hmm.
really so like there was many times when a band would come through and they didn't know that. Like, oh my God, this place I work at, just come with me. You guys can everybody can eat free as much as you want. So like Tree People, I mean, literally like
Oh yeah.
a whole slew of bands where there would be at least somebody, one person, like Eric Ockery was the
Oh yeah.
drummer, the Tree People at that
Yeah.
point. I didn't know anybody else in the band really, though we had played shows with them.
Yeah.
But there would be like, like Calvin,
Hmm.
or whatever.
Yeah.
I'd have some kind of connection
Hmm.
through being in a band with, you know,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's yeah.
And
It's
then Sub Pop came to Albuquerque and was like interested in possibly bands down there, but it was Big Damn Crazy Weight, which was basically our neighbors down there. So the Sub Pop signed those guys for like a single, or a couple singles.
yeah.
That was kind of interesting. Sub Pop comes to
Yeah. Yeah.
Albuquerque.
Yeah. They're scouting other places.
Yeah, they were scouting in Albuquerque. Yeah.
That's bring up a good point of how, like, how the scene was so, like, kind of like, I don't know, like incestuous, and everyone's kind of like, because, like, Kill Sybil, we practiced in Georgetown neighborhood, and we shared a space with the Tree People and Blood Circus, and we had gone through a couple drummers. Like my sister Patty was the first drummer in Kill Sybil, and then we were like, oh, what are we gonna do? And then Eric Ockery, like we were like, like they were, Tree People were coming out of practice. We were going in. We just was talking to Eric and saying like, yeah, we need a drummer right now. And he's like, I'll do it. And it was like, cool. So then Eric played in Kill Sybil, and we put a record out. And he killed it, man. He like, it was one of those drummers that kind of like, he made, we were pretty like sloppy, kind of like, I don't know, we weren't, the most like tight band or anything, and but he kind of elevated our playing because he was such a good drummer, and it was like really cool, the stuff he added to the band. But and yeah, and we would play with Tree People, the Gits, the Fluid, and yeah, it really was like, like you'd know people, we'd play Olympia, we'd play Tacoma, play Bellingham, and you'd know everyone in these, like I love Beat Happening. I love going up there to see them play, and Screaming Trees. Like I remember first seeing them in Bellingham of all places, right when they were first, maybe it was right when the first record came out, and that was with Beat Happening and Girl Trouble, and it was just like a really cool, like such a connected scene of bands, and it was really cool because, um yeah, everyone, it was a scene where there there was not really competition. I think it was more just like helping out and putting on shows and stuff. It was.
Yeah. Did you ever see Christ on a Crutch?
Yeah, yeah, with
Yeah,
Eric.
that's when Eric was in Christ on a Crutch, and Nate Mendel was in Christ on a Crutch and did a lot of shows and went on a short tour. Subvert did with those guys.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that was uh, that was a crazy tour. Our van got towed at one point, and with all the gear in it, and
Oh,
we were like freaked out at first, thinking that it got
wow.
stolen. But and
Oh,
it
that's.
ruined the rest of the tour. We couldn't make it down to Los Angeles because
Hmm.
of that. We didn't have the money. We were like literally those guys. Um, I forget who it was that played out on the street in Berkeley to like make enough money to. We were all trying to scrape up as much money as we could to get the van out so we
Oh,
could get home at that point. We missed the Los Angeles show.
oh, damn. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the touring back then was really interesting because I remember Kill Civil. We had put out a single, and it was like, well, we put out a single. I guess we go on tour. That's what you do. Like back then, that's so fans would have demo tapes or a single and be, oh, let's go. You know, go on tour. And I remember, yeah, we went down the West Coast, all the way down to San Diego. We did make it to LA, played L's Bar, played Raji's, uh, played some shows with the Muffs, played Gilman with our buddies Some Velvet Sidewalk, and uh, but it was a bunch of bigger bands like Sam I Am and Mr. T Experience, like a total Gilman type of situation.
Oh,
But uh, but I remember when being on that tour and getting a a toothache that was so horrible that the pain was so intense that all I could really do was just drink. It's just, I'm just gonna away the pain. But as soon as we got into LA and Hollywood, I was like, I can't deal with this anymore. So I found some cruddy dentist on Hollywood Boulevard and got a root canal on tour.
wow. Yikes.
I remember being like, how the hell am I gonna, like, calling my mom like, I can you pay for this root canal or whatever, how much it was back then. Um,
A
but yeah,
lot.
yeah, touring back then was it was fun, but because now when I think back, it was how did we, all we had was the map and the even phone calls from payphones, and that's how they were set up tours back then. Like nowadays it's so easy with all the internet and you know cell phones and everything, but back then you know it was you just go to a place and hope that it was there and there was people to see you or whatever. um
Yeah.
but yeah. uh
Yeah. I was thinking there was a story that I wanted to ask you about that more theater. It was the Sub Pop fest
yeah.
where the very end, like I told the story and it's on video. You can see it kind of on video now because it was taped, but Kurt jumps through the drum set and he comes back out and he had like glue in his hair or something and his guitar's hanging from
Yeah.
his hair and he comes out and he's like walking in his guitar's like swinging from his hair and I don't
Yeah.
know.
I
I
re-
just remember I,
yeah.
I found him after the show and we actually went out to Tracy's car and I played him a machine and just recorded a demo tape. I remember there was like a Green River tape hanging from the rearview mirror, like
Mhm.
it was like it got eaten or something, and it was hanging from the rearview mirror. But
Yeah.
yeah, I had asked him. We were talking about that, and he had put like glue or something in his hair. Uh,
Weird. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
uh,
wild. Remember, I vividly remember that because I remember him like with the
Yeah.
guitar. I just remember that. Yeah, that show is parts of it are on YouTube, and yeah, it was a yeah, it was wild because it was like seeing these bands in kind of bigger venue. We used to seeing them in the smaller,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and there's so many. There was like oh, they played a place called the Annex Theater, like upstairs in Seattle with Love Battery. Um, I remember they opened for the Flaming Lips at the Vogue. The Vogue was so small, and I remember like um, that one being a really cool
I
show.
love that one. Yeah, I missed
Um,
that show.
but it's funny, the Motorsports Garage show that you brought up was, yeah, I remember going down there. Like I lived up on Capitol Hill and just walked down the hill, and I remember like I didn't have a ticket or anything, and I'm just like, I'll just I remember just massive amounts of people there. Like, oh, what the hell's going on? Like so many people were there, and yeah, I just remember walking around the back of the venue, and there was just like an open a thing where I just kind of like I kind of just walked up to a crowd of people and just like just got in, just kind of hustled. On. I just walked right in, and no one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any other stories for, like, sneaking into shows like that or,
Well,
getting into shows?
yeah, a lot of times I would like really frustrated that when I was under 21, I had such a some cool bands would play, and but I remember a few times where there was a place called the Ditto, where they had like Green River would be playing or whatever, and I'd be like, you're like, I want to get into the show, and I remember just one night like being downtown and going to the Ditto and just like walking right in, and the guy at the door didn't even and just being like, oh shit, I'm in, or using fake ID to get into the Vogue, or but yeah, a lot of times I would um yeah, I didn't have as many interesting sneak in stories, but there was a lot of the stamp making the stamps.
Yeah, that's of course. Yeah, that's one of the ways I totally,
And
forgot. Absolutely did that.
like someone would go down there and then come back up to wherever we were partying or whatever and go, hey, I got a thing, and we'd be cool, let's or there'd be someone who was a really good artist to like let me.
Yeah.
And most of the time we would never really get busted for it. It was such a you know and it seemed more casual back then, I guess. People were like, yeah, come on in. But yeah, it's like it never really until things really started blowing up where shows would get sold out. Like it was really, yeah, it wasn't too hard to like get yourself in a show.
Um, I wanna ask you about, so you were in a band with Rocky Erickson for a
Yes,
short.
in
So
Rocky.
how did that happen?
So that was
Or
yeah,
whatever story.
yeah. So Rocky Erickson, 13th floor elevators legend, like, and that was the thing, is like I was such a huge fan of the 13th floor elevators and Rocky Erickson's solo work and stuff. And uh I remember seeing um my band at the time, Death Valley Girls. We played a festival um down here in California, in Southern Cal, and Rocky Erickson played, and watched the show. It was amazing. And after the show, we saw that the guitar player just hanging out, and we went up to him like, hey, that was an amazing show, that was so cool, like like just wanted to say how great it was. And he was like, well, what band are you in? And we were like, oh, we're called Death Valley Girls. And then he's like, oh, I like you guys, I got your last record. And he started talking to us, and it was like, cool, this is awesome. And then fast forward about a year later, where he emails us and says, hey, Rocky Erickson band is going on tour again, do you guys want to be the support band? And we're like,
Oh, okay.
do this. So we agreed to go on the tour, and then a couple weeks later, the guitar player Eli, he messaged me and he said, "Hey, I'm the guitar player in Rocky's band, and it'd be really cool if we had a second guitar player because Rocky doesn't really play much with his guitar anymore. He's just singing. So if you're interested in joining the band for these tours, that would be awesome." So I was just blown away, and I was like, "Hell yeah, I want to play in the band." So he sent me like just tons of songs to learn. Like, hey, here's all the 13 for elevator songs. Here's Rocky Eric's solo songs. And so I just like did my homework and, like practice these songs over and over again. And then, so we went on tour. So Death Valley Girls, we left tour and met up with them in Austin, Texas, where they're located. And I did a couple practices with the band. And then we went on tour. So I was basically doing double duty where I'd open, play in Death Valley Girls and then play in the Rocky Erickson band, and that kind of became a thing. With then like after that tour, then you know we did another run with them, and then occasionally there'd be shows where Rocky's band would do some shows, and I'd join up with them and play, and yeah, it was just a few years of off and on, whenever they would be up for a tour, playing in the band, and it's still like I'm still like just like can't believe that, man, I was in the band in Rocky's band because he's such a legend, like one of my favorites. So it was such a cool experience, and even one night when we played the Roxy in L.A., Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top came, and he's an old friend because he was in the band, the psychedelic band Moving Sidewalks, and so he came to the show, and then they asked Billy, like, you should get up and play, we're going to do the song You're Gonna Miss Me for the encore. So Billy Gibbons got up on stage with us and played guitar.
What?
And
Oh my god. Wow. Not many people can say that.
yeah, Billy Gibbons and me and the other guitar player Eli were just like, this is insane. It was so,
Wow.
like, you know, experience. But yeah, and then yeah, Rocky passed away a few years ago, and but still that whole experience is so incredible. It's like such a cool thing to be part of. It's like, yeah, that was just a
Yeah. Wow.
time.
Great story.
Yeah,
Well, I guess before we wrap this up, it seems like we could talk for hours,
oh,
It starts uh it starts bringing up more memories for
mhm.
me. Each
Oh yeah,
each story brings up more memories,
yeah. I
different
think
shows,
yeah,
bands,
perfect.
clubs.
Many.
Um, but so are you in a band? You said you're jamming with some people now, or do you have a band that
Yeah,
you're in?
I have a few things going right now. One of them is, so in the back in the '90s when I first moved to LA, I joined the LA punk band, the Flesh Eaters.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
so that's Chris D, who he had the Flesh Eaters, Divine Horsemen, and he, like as a writer, he used to write for Slash magazine, Forced Exposure, and and I was a fan of Flesh Eaters, so um, I yeah, I was like when I first moved to LA, I was like newly sober, and I was like going to AA meetings and stuff, and I met Chris, and a lot of these old LA punks are like, were getting sober, and I'd meet a lot of them at these meetings and stuff, and Chris said, "Oh yeah, we're Flesh Eaters, get back together and need another guitar player." So I joined up with them, and we played a lot back then, and did a record and stuff, and then and then moved on to some other stuff. So fast forward to now, where Chris D wanted to make another record, so he contacted me and said, "Hey, I want to do another record. wasn't sure if it was going to be the Flesh Eaters or like Christie. So he landed on, he wanted to make it its own band, Christie Poison Fang Society. So I called my friend Sharif to be part of it, and we got the old Flesh Eaters drummer. So we recorded an album a few months back, and the label In the Red, which is such a great label, they just reissued all the Saints stuff recently, and so In the Red is going to put out that record next year. So we'll probably be doing shows for that. And then I'm in two other projects. One of them is called Leaf Blower, which is a friend of mine, Adam, his project, and he asked a few of his friends to he wrote some songs. They said, I want to make this a band and play some shows. So um, we practiced and kind of added everyone kind of added their own, you know, flavor to the tunes and stuff. And we just recorded a record over this last weekend, and it's really wild stuff. It's kind of like Flipper meets Chrome meets like Hawkwind. It's this really wild,
Wow.
cool, like a lot of stuff happening. And that's yeah, I just listened to some rough mixes last night. It's sounding really, really cool. So we're gonna play some shows coming up here soon. And then another band, which is just like a fun project with a friend of mine, called Black to Calm. And that's sort of like a he always does interesting projects that he'll have a concept in his mind. He'll be like, so Black to Calm is a old song by the MC5 where it's just like two chords jam for like, you know, 25 minutes or something. So he's like, I want to do this thing, where we play this song. And so I love MC5. So he got a couple other buddies together, and we occasionally do that for fun and play shows. And so it's just like a lot of random fun projects that are happening, and just keep them busy. And yeah, it's been really fun just to like have, because every now and then I'll usually have maybe one band I'm doing, but now it's like fun to kind of get back to like, having a juggling a few different things. Yeah, what are you working on? Have you got something?
Well, I have some songs I've been starting on, and my ear's been really,
Oh yeah.
that's been a big issue with. It's been very difficult to concentrate or to be able to put on headphones or like, so I'm just really hoping to this clears up. So I mean, I'm getting to the point where it's like, just I just know that the volume, any volume affects it. It'll go like, and right now it's pretty good. The last couple days, it's been kind of fluctuating. Where overall, it's better than it's been for months after I got the two put in. But it's still, I'll have a what I would consider a pretty bad day, but still better than before. And then it'll get like right now, it's it's like the pulsating's there, but it's not very loud. It's like,
Hmm.
but it's soft enough that I don't hear it. Is if it's loud enough, I hear it and it distracts everything I do. So I have to change my life completely to be able to like put up with it one way or another. Either not hear it or watch TV. I have to, yeah. So, but yeah, when it comes to music, it's definitely, I'm just not letting it. I'm not letting it bother me as much as I guess, being a musician is a big part of my life. So it's very upsetting at times. I'm just not really trying to dwell on it. So,
Yeah.
but I need to, like, when I have good days, I have to somehow force myself to be inspired, but that's not my thing. I like to not. It's not a forcing. Playing music or writing music is not a forced thing, right? You want to do it when it when it feels like right. So it's just kind of all kind of difficult right now, but I have some songs I'm working on
Cool.
for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, an album.
Yeah.
There'll be another album by next year sometime.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah. Whenever I go to shows now, I'm always like, got to bring the earplugs, and because I wouldn't for years, I just like wouldn't wear earplugs and go to these crazy loud shows or practice or whatever. And it's definitely, like I do have tinnitus, especially in one ear where I could really hear it. Even when I talk about it, I hear the ringing. It's
Mm.
yeah, one of those things where it's just like, damn. Uh, yeah, it's y-
Well, it's good it's not keeping you from playing. I mean, that's when it's, you know, that's when it's fucked up,
mm,
really
right.
fucked up. You're like, I can't play. I mean, I would have never imagined this, you know. I
Yeah.
mean,
Do you have any idea, like, where, like, do you just kind of, it just kind of came up like that, like nothing in particular brought it on?
God, well, last January I had COVID, and right after I started getting better, I had this really bad ring I'd never heard before, and it was like, oh, this must be what tinnitus is or whatever, really tinnitus. Because I have like ringing after shows or after a loud band practice, but it wouldn't be like that. And then I would kind of lose my equilibrium some for a few days, and then I got better. And then all of a sudden, the very beginning of May, it started happening, um, and it would be this fluctuation off and on where it would get really bad, and then I'd get better. And I thought it was allergies.
Mm.
Saw the doctor. I mean, the whole process of like, oh, this is going to go away, and it just got worse, and
Yeah.
then started pulsating, um, pretty much constantly now, but it just gets really, really soft at times. So yeah, it's just been, and that's always means there's an underlying cause. So
Hmm.
that's kind of what I would consider, some people would think it's a scary that's I don't think it's as scary in my position that there's are very scary underlying causes for this, but all the signs I have point towards it's just going to be it's like inner ear thing. So I'm going to get the CT scan on the 21st. So after that, they'll pinpoint it,
Yeah.
you know. So I'm just crossing my fingers that it'll go away.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I hope
but
whatever it was a sort of a passing thing, and
yeah, I hope so, man. I mean, but I am still feeling way better than I did like a month and a half ago. It was absolutely like emergency level.
wow.
Like I would get so much anxiety and so freaked out that I'd be calling the nurse or going to urgent care because my ear appointment, I couldn't get any sooner. I kept trying to get a sooner one. Oh yeah. Anyway,
Wow.
so in a way, I have some relief now. So
Yeah. Good.
yeah.
Cool.
Well, Larry, it's been good to talk to you. I feel like this is like a part one. you
Yeah.
know.
Much more I want
So
to ask you, and stories to tell. So I
yeah,
definitely.
yeah. All
Cool.
right. Well, you have a good day, and I'll figure this. I'll watch this and figure out if it can be edited. And I'm sure it can.
Right.
And yeah,
Cool.
I'll send you a link or let you know when I make it public. So
Sounds good, John.
okay.
All right.
All right.
We'll talk to you.
Take care. Talk to you later.